Hello, St. Joseph class, and welcome to Wednesday, the 1st of July. How did that happen? We're now in July. Anyway, whatever you celebrate. So some people say white rabbits. So white rabbits, white rabbits, white rabbits. Some people say pinch punch, 1st of the month, but don't hurt anybody when you do that one. But anyway, welcome to July. And welcome back to our learning this week, which, as you remember, is about Native Americans. Now, we're going to be looking at totem poles today. Now, if I asked you, how many Native American tribes do you think used totem poles? How many do you think? Also, do you know what they were used for? Why they were significant? What they actually meant, what they stood for? How they were made? Do you know? You may have a few ideas, but today we're going to be finding out more and more about totem poles. And also, can you believe yesterday apparently marked 100 days of lockdown, when those people closest to you have been doing their best to look after you. So today, towards the end of the video, as a fun activity, I'm going to give you the chance to create your own totem pole based on those amazing people that mean so much to you. You have a chance to create and draw and make your own totem pole featuring your family and maybe closest friends as well. Maybe even your pets that have helped you through these past few months. Anyway, I'm just going to grab you and pop you here. So as we can see, today's learning is about totem poles. And you can see a beautiful example there. But what is the history of totem poles? Let's just have a quick look together.
Art and traditional stories from other cultures can inform and inspire our own creative work. They can also push us beyond the limits of our own experiences and challenge us to strive towards our full human potential. Totem poles are a great example of this, with their stunning artwork depicting fascinating and compelling narratives. When you think of Native American culture, you probably think of teepees and totem poles, but most Native American tribes didn't have either of these. Totem poles were only carved by a small number of tribes, those living in the area marked in red here on the map, from southeastern Alaska down the coast of Canada as far south as Vancouver Island. We do not know how long the tribes in this region carved these poles. The tribes had no system of writing and kept no records, and the poles themselves decomposed and deteriorated. We have a couple of sketches from explorers in the 1790s like this one, showing interior house poles or exterior entrance poles. The evidence suggests that column carving existed at least a few generations before contact with Russian and European explorers, but that contact caused radical changes to the art form. The fur trade brought a huge increase in wealth to the region. The traders brought iron tools, which made the carvers more efficient and their designs more elaborate. The traders also brought diseases that caused tragic loss of life, leaving many leadership positions vacant. These factors led to lavish displays of wealth, gift-giving, and chiefly competitions for social rank that dramatically increased the number of poles commissioned. This brought about what is known as the Golden Age of totem poles in the 1800s. Totem poles were carved of western red cedar. It is a beautiful soft wood, very workable, but also very durable. The larger poles could be around 30 to 40 feet tall, sometimes taller, with a diameter of 4 feet or so. The poles could often stand for 50 to 60 years out in the elements before they would collapse. A pole could take as long as 2 years to carve. A patron would hire a carver from outside his own clan, preferably from another tribe altogether. The carver and his family would often live with the patron during the entire process. The patron would spend a great deal of time communicating to the carver the histories and legends of his family. These carvers, with their many travels and exposure to stories from other clans, were perhaps the most culturally aware members of their society. Carvers had plenty of freedom in how they depicted the figures on these poles, but they always followed formal stylistic rules. Ravens had straight beaks, eagles had curved beaks. Beavers always had 2 large front teeth and held a stick in their paws. Wolves and bears looked surprisingly similar, but they could be distinguished by the shape of their teeth and the length of their snouts. Other symbols could communicate further details. These two dorsal fins on this killer whale indicate that it is a supernatural figure. One of the great poles carved at the end of the Golden Age is this raven pole carved for the chief in Wrangell, Alaska in 1896. This postcard from 1913 shows how the pole looked standing outside the chief's house. The original pole collapsed in the 1970s, but this replica of the pole still stands in Wrangell today. This pole depicts the story of how Raven, the great culture hero of Pacific Northwest legends, placed the sun in the sky. The second figure on the pole is this raven. He was a trickster figure who could change forms, so he is depicted here in both raven and human form. He is also depicted with a sun around his face because of his role in this story. In the beginning, the world was covered in darkness. All the light was hidden away in a box by the Creator, the top figure on this pole. The Creator in this tribe's tradition was also a raven. Notice the straight beak. Trickster Raven began scheming how to steal the light from the Creator Raven. He transformed himself into a hemlock needle and floated down the stream, where the third figure on the pole, the daughter of Creator Raven, drank him up. She later gave birth to a son, Trickster Raven in disguise. Trickster Raven pleaded with his new grandfather, throwing tantrums and begging him to take the light out of the box and let him play with it. When Creator Raven reluctantly agreed, Trickster Raven turned back into his real form, carried the light up through the smoke hole of the house, and placed it in the sky as the sun. The story of totem poles does not end with the Golden Age. The 20th century saw a decline in pole carving, some government attempts to recreate the art, and a revival of sorts in the 50s and 60s among native artists who could still learn from the old masters. But that story will have to wait for another day. If you're interested in learning more, you can visit randyhoyt.com/ignite for...
Okay, so there we go. So the golden age of totem pole making wasn't until the 1800s. Here we can see another few examples there. Can you detect any animals? Can you work out which animals are depicted here? Can you see any? So, looking at what they mean and their significance and their history, the word totem comes from the Ojibwe word Totem, which means his kinship group. Kinship means family. So those people around you, your closest people looking after you, that have been there for you over these past few months, are your family, so they are your kin. Which is why I'd like you to think about making a totem pole in honour of your kinship group, your family. Today my challenge to you is to make your own totem poles that will show important people in your lives that we are thankful for. You can represent these important people by drawing them in human or animal form. Many animals represent human personality traits. So in Native American culture, different animals stood for different qualities or different parts of a human personality. And we'll look a bit more at those in a little while. So animals that are associated with personalities, human personalities. The Native Americans believed an eagle would watch over things, so was protective. The fox was sneaky or clever. Monkey represented silliness. A dog represented somebody who was loving and loyal. A lion meant you were brave. A mouse meant you were quiet by nature. On the other hand, a squirrel meant you were hyper by nature. An owl would mean you were smart or wise. A swan stood for beauty, or somebody who was beautiful. And an ox stood for somebody who was very, very strong. Now, thinking about St. Joseph class, I can think of some of those animals representing the adults and the children in the class. But can you? So when you make your totems, make each totem mean something to you. So I'd like you to choose 4 people. So the 4 levels on your totem pole. So step 1, Pick the 4 people you want to represent on your totem pole. Step 2, decide how you're going to represent them. Are you going to make them into an animal or leave them as a human, as they are in real life? Or are you going to draw their face with lots of expression to represent what kind of person they are, such as happy, sad, funny, or excited? Step 3, either with words in your head, think about, or it'd be even better if you wrote down these words, because one day you can maybe look back at them as a memento of this time together. Write down who each totem is and why you drew them the way you did. Step 4, draw each person as either a face or an animal. Step 5, cut and glue your totem pole next to your writing, or keep them both together, so you can keep a copy and a memory of your work. Because as we believe, this will be a once in a lifetime event, I believe. So it would be nice to have this as a memento of your time together during this period. So what you can write down. Step 1, writing down people I will represent. So think about those 4 people your totem pole is going to represent. Step 2, copy these sentences if they help, using the people from step 1. Describe your special person in 1 word and then write why you drew them the way you did. So for instance, you could maybe write, my dad or my mum is brave, is strong, is funny, is loving. So I drew them smiling, protecting me. I recreated them as a lion, as an eagle, and so on and so on. So once you've done that for 4 of them, step 3, copy step 2 if you want to write it down into a neat final draft. Step 4, draw faces onto your totem pole sheet, which I'll talk about in a moment, based on your choices from step 2. And finally, step 5, cut and glue the totem pole and keep it next to your writing or final piece of writing, so you can keep it as a memento of this extended time together. So once again, those animals, eagles, because they watch over things, they were used to represent somebody who was protective. Fox was sneaky or clever. Monkey was silly. Dog, loving and loyal. Lion, brave. Mice, quiet. Squirrel, hyper. Owl, smart or wise. Swan, beautiful. And ox, strong. Now, I will attach some forms and sheets to our St. Joseph class tile, including this huge long list. Lots and lots of different animals here that represented different qualities in Native American culture. So animal characteristics and meanings. So I won't read them all, but for instance, alligator would represent a maternal figure, so mum maybe, or gran. Revenge-orientated, quickness, aggression, and basic survival instincts. Down to bear, who was industrious, instinctive, healing, power, sovereignty, guardian of the world, watcher, courage, willpower, self-preservation, introspection, and great strength. And we can keep going down, and we have dog at the bottom, noble, faithful, loyal, teaching, protective, and guiding. Going on through to dolphin, representing kindness, salvation, wisdom, happiness, playfulness, prudence, capable of deep emotion and happy, all the way down to kangaroo, lion, and lizards. Llama, lynx, mole, all the way down to turkey, turtle, unicorn. So lots of animals there to help your creative and imaginative creations. Weasel, whale, wolf, woodpecker, zebra. So I'll upload that list to the St. Joseph class tile, along with templates of how to make your totem pole. You can have a go on your own, or if you wanted to, you can print and cut out this copy. And if you follow the folding instructions at the top, you should end up with an amazing looking totem pole. If you're a bit stuck though, if you have a go at drawing your own, it'd be amazing if you could with your 4 figures, remember, 1, 2, 3, 4. But also, I'll also upload a couple that are already there for you to colour in. So, totem poles, or an introduction there to totem poles and their significance. Just think about how few, it was just that little group of tribes on the northwest coast towards Canada and up to Alaska that used them, really. And they didn't really become popular. The golden period, as it were, within the 1800s. But they were used to show love and affection and devotion, and it was an emblem of significance. So showing those people in remembrance that meant a lot to you, or celebration even, not even remembrance. Some people were still living. It was a mark of celebration and remembrance of a certain time, a certain period. So your challenge is to create your totem pole. Choose 4 people, or it could be, like I said, your pet. Your loving, adorable, strong, reliable, funny brother, sister, dad, mum, stepdad, stepmum, gran, aunt, uncle. The choice is yours, and the possibilities are limitless and endless, just like your imagination should be as well. And just think about how many animals will be on that list as well, if you ever get stuck. Okay, so get creating. I hope you have lots and lots of fun, and I really look forward to one day seeing what you have created. And until then, until next week, take care, and we'll see you then.